You know, my favorite part of the NASCAR offseason is that we can go a full 2 weeks with like barely any to no news in the NASCAR world. And then all of a sudden, just everyone just dumps it all on one day, within an hour of each other. Just don't know how that happens, but it does. Yes. We have Todd Gilliland's crew chief for 2024. We have the news on the NASCAR practice and qualifying format for 2025. And Trackhouse is entering into the Rolex 24. Yes, all of these were within an hour of each other. The announcements. So yeah, we got to clump it all in one video. So here we go. Let's start with Front Row Motorsports. Todd Gilliland will be back with the team next year. We knew that. That was announced early in the season that he had signed a contract extension with the team. He will switch numbers, though. He will not be in the 38 next year. He will be in the 34. Loves will be sponsoring him. So he's essentially got, I don't really know if there's an A, B, or C car, but he's got the A car. If we're looking at historically at Front Row Motorsports, the 34 car has been the car. Well, he has a new crew chief in 2025. That crew chief will be someone he's actually been partnered with before, Chris Lawson. Lawson and Gilliland have worked together before in the Truck Series for a couple of seasons. They won a race together. They worked together at Rickware Racing. Remember Todd Gilliland back in 2023? He raced about 30 of the 36 races with Front Row, but then he had to do 6 races with Rickware. And that's where Chris Lawson's been. He's been at Rickware Racing. He was with Justin Haley this past year up until the trade with Corey LaJoie. Then he was with LaJoie. But Lawson, he also won a Truck Series championship with Zane Smith back in 2022. So a lot of success, a lot of experience with different drivers. But he's back with a driver he's familiar with Todd Gilliland. So Todd Gilliland, he's going to have a new number in 2025, and he's going to have a new crew chief in 2025. Now moving on to NASCAR practice and qualifying. So NASCAR practice is over like that. Like it's very quick. Split them up into A's and B's, and you get like 15 to 20 minutes or something. And then qualifying, you go back to your groups. This is the old format, by the way, if I didn't specify. You go back to your groups, and the top 5 from each group advance. And then, to further complicate things, we don't do it based on speed, our top 10. No. Group A is 1 row. Group B is 1 row. So Group A, whoever qualified 5th, could theoretically be faster than Group B's fastest and be 10th versus 2nd. It's not made up. That's actually how it worked, like a month ago. That's literally how it worked. It was a ridiculous concept, but thankfully NASCAR looked at themselves in the mirror and said, is this really how we want to set up the lineup every single race for the rest of time? No. Thankfully, they said no. So the Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series, here's the format now. Group practice is no longer 20 minutes. It's going to be 25 minutes. 5 extra minutes. It's actually a big deal. Single round qualifying at every single track except for super speedways, which will still implement a final round of time trials for the fastest 10 cars. Starting position based solely on qualifying results rather than the row by row designations, as I just explained to you, according to the qualifying group. And then just a small little thing, this has been in place for years now, but at the short track, so like Martinsville, Bristol, Richmond, you get 2 laps instead of 1. That's always been a thing. So that's not a surprise. That's not new, but it does need to be pointed out that indeed at the short tracks you have 2 qualifying laps, whereas Texas, Vegas, Homestead, Michigan, Indianapolis, you get 1 qualifying lap. So once again, pretty straightforward. It's going to be on Prime Video for the majority of the season. For the first half of the season. And then TNT Sports on Max and True TV will be on the second half. And Fox will have exclusive practice and qualifying rights to the Clash and the Daytona 500 and the All-Star race. So, new broadcast partners get practice and qualifying. That's pretty cool if you ask me. Now, let's get to the big news here. Not to say those were like nothing, but compared to this next one, I would say this next one is significant news. Trackhouse Racing. Trackhouse has been, in its own way, revolutionary in motorsports. They entered NASCAR in 2021 with Daniel Suarez as their driver. Justin Marks was their founder owner, and he was a former driver. And later on, they announced that Pitbull, the singer-songwriter, he had invested in the team. They then escalate and they grow to a two-car team in 2022. They win with both cars in 2022. They make the Final Four in 2022 with Ross Chastain, one of the most iconic NASCAR moves with the Hail Melon. 2023, they're once again still a two-car operation, but they announce, well, actually, technically, this goes back to 2022. They announced that they're going to have a third part-time car for international drivers called Project 91. We see Kimi Räikkönen from F1. He goes in there for a couple of races. Then we see Shane Van Gisbergen get in there, and his first time in there, he wins like it was no big deal. So then, after that, Trackhouse says, you know what? Let's keep going. Let's make a MotoGP team. Great. Let's do it. Let's get more international up in here. And then, on top of that, they decide to expand to 3 cars. They decide to move Shane Van Gisbergen over he's from New Zealand, but he raced in Australia. I want to make that clear so I don't get yelled at. But he decides to move from Australia, where he was living and racing. He moves all the way here to the United States, is racing in the Xfinity Series. Well, now he's in that 3rd car at Trackhouse. Meanwhile, they also had Zane Smith. They had to let him go, though. But they also decided to sign Connor Zilisch, a young up-and-coming star, and he is now going to be in the Xfinity Series. So they have 4 drivers on contract. 3 of them are in the Cup Series. 1 of them is in the Xfinity Series. This is on top of having a MotoGP team, and now they're going to be in the Rolex 24, the 24 hours at Daytona. Trackhouse Racing partners with TF Sport, to enter Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. Shane Van Gisbergen, Connor Zilisch, Scott McLaughlin, and Ben Keating will pilot the number 91 Trackhouse by TF Sport Corvette. With NASCAR and MotoGP teams in its portfolio, Trackhouse Racing announced today it will expand to a new racing series in January when it partners with TF Sport to field a Chevrolet Corvette Z06 GT 3.R and the GT Daytona GTD Pro Class for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship's 62nd annual Rolex 24 at Daytona on January 25th through 26th. The number 91 Corvette race team competing in the 24-hour race at Daytona International Speedway will be a collaboration between Trackhouse Racing and TF Sport titled Trackhouse by TF Sport. Very creative. Trackhouse NASCAR drivers Shane Van Gisbergen and Connor Zilisch, along with IndyCar star Scott McLaughlin and longtime sports car racer Ben Keating, will drive the number 91 Corvette in America's most prestigious endurance race. Participating in the Rolex 24 has been a dream since the inception of Trackhouse Racing, said Trackhouse owner and founder Justin Marks. We wanted to make sure we could enter with a top-notch partner in Chevrolet and TF Sport, as well as a driver lineup that could compete for the victory. We feel like this group we have put together can compete for the trophy. We set out to become an international company with a global brand. We took a big step in 2024, adding MotoGP. Today marks another step as Trackhouse enters one of the most prestigious motorsports races in the world with 2 Americans and 2 New Zealanders behind the wheel. Mark said he was intentional about selecting his partners like TF Sport and Chevrolet as well as his drivers for the 24-hour race. We wanted the best partners because we know how difficult this task will be. We are racing against some of the best sports car teams and drivers in the world. And then the TF Sport owner, Tom Ferrier, said, "This is a fantastic way to kick off our 2025 racing program with Corvette Racing. This team is a combination of sports car, IndyCar, and NASCAR all joining together for a common goal, which is to win the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. It is such a great event, and we cannot wait to get started with this talented team." As much as the cars and equipment, motorsports is about relationships. We are happy to deepen ours with Trackhouse Racing and TF Sport as they combine for the special entry into the Rolex 24 at Daytona, said Eric Warren, Executive Director at GM Motorsports. Both bring a tremendous amount of knowledge and professionalism into this race, especially TF Sport with its FIA WEC experience with the Corvette and all the extra stuff with Corvette. Adding a fifth Corvette to the opening race for 2025 is something that will excite our Corvette owners and Corvette racing fans. We got some driver quotes. Yes, the driver quotes. SVG said, "This is a dream come true to get to drive around alongside Scotty, Connor, and Ben. I love the 24 hours of Daytona, and it's awesome to do this with this team. Justin, Chevrolet, and TF Sport have done a great job putting this all together." Ben Keating said, "I'm really excited for this. I've won Le Mans in a Corvette and won a world championship in a Corvette. I'm thrilled to be back with TF Sport, a team that I know very well and one where we won a lot of races and a championship together. I'm teaming with some phenomenal Chevrolet drivers in Shane, Scott, and Connor, which should be a lot of fun. This will be a big challenge, but one that I know we are all looking forward to and are up for." Scotty Mac said, "When the opportunity came up from General Motors to run with Ben, Connor, and Shane, I jumped at it straight away. I've always wanted to run an endurance race in a Chevrolet Corvette, and I could not imagine a better group to join. I'm confident we have a real chance of winning a Rolex with this team. Shane and I have so much history racing against each other, including some time as teammates. He's one of the best racers I've ever competed against, so it'll be great to be on his side again for Daytona. Connor is a young star who's going to be around for a long time, and Ben has won Le Mans and a world championship in a Corvette. We're going to have some fun." And then Zilisch said, "I can't wait for the 24 hours this year. This will be cool, and I really think we can win this race. I love my Rolex, and if I can get another one, I might wear one on each wrist. It takes so much to win this race, and I think everyone in this group brings something to the table that will help get us to victory lane. I know our Corvette will be fast." So yes, Trackhouse, as I said once again, expanding. They're stretching out their wings. They're a peacock. You got to let them fly, you know? But yes, they have 4 drivers who have all been a part of this race before. They have multiple drivers that have won this race before, maybe all 4 of them, honestly. But they got a full-time endurance guy, or a guy who knows endurance very well, sports cars very well, and Ben Keating. Shane Van Gisbergen and Scott McLaughlin, they've raced a lot of different stuff in their career. Obviously, McLaughlin's in IndyCar now, used to be at Supercars, had a lot of success over there. SVG, same story on the Supercars thing, but now he's in NASCAR. And then Connor Zilisch, only, 19 years old or something, 20 years old, super young. And he's done a little bit of everything. He's done some NASCAR, he's done some sports car racing. I think he's even done some open wheel racing, like, a lot of experience in this group in a lot of wide varieties of ways. So if they can field a competitive car, they have a great opportunity to win their class. Obviously, the Rolex 24, you have a bunch of different classes. If you win your class, you get a watch. You get a Rolex watch. So that's pretty cool. But the Rolex 24 is in January. That is really cool. It's a really big deal, if you ask me, to see a NASCAR team, a team that started in NASCAR, expanding to different types of international motorsport. Yes, the Rolex 24 is in Daytona, Florida, United States of America, but it's an international race. We see a lot of different drivers from different countries, different manufacturers from different countries. This is a series that goes all over the world. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal to see things like this, the MotoGP entry. So it's a really big deal, if you ask me, to see Trackhouse once again, stretching out, expanding into different branches of motorsport. Justin Marks has done it again, but I'm very excited to see how this group does at Daytona in January. We got to wait all the way till next year. You only have to hear me say that dumb joke for like 18, 19 more days. Is it the 12th? I think it's the 12th, so 19 more days. But yeah. As for the channel, we'll be doing a bunch of random off-season videos. I'm starting to get together some clips of the unseen footage from at track in 2024. So I'll be posting some pictures to kind of tease that, in a sense, if you haven't seen some of that stuff. And then I'll make a college football playoff bracket. It will go horribly wrong. And then I'll do some other random things, like diecast reviews. We'll see. But thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts are on all these news stories that decided to drop within an hour of each other.